The University of Florida just released a survey indicating current consumer confidence rates. How exactly were these rates determined?
So we do a survey of about 500 Florida households every month. So we call up a random selection of 500 households, and among other things, we ask them 5 questions that make up consumer confidence. And those get at perceptions of personal finances now compared to a year ago, their expectations of personal finances a year from now, their view of the U.S. economic climate over the next year, over the next 5 years, and then whether it's a good time to buy big-ticket items. Those would be things that you have to buy with a loan, typically like a car or maybe a large appliance.
And what did you find the common results were?
So this month, consumer confidence came in at 79. That's actually down 1 point from a revised September number that went up to 80. So 80 is actually the highest it's been since the recession began back in 2007. And so at 79, we're just 1 point off that. We're still very much at these sort of post-recession highs. And it's worth noting, though, that 79 historically would be a fairly low number. So the lowest it's ever gotten was 59. That was back in June of 2008 in the deepest, darkest part of the Great Recession. And the highest it's ever been was 111. So at 79, we're nowhere near sort of historical normal, but this is kind of a new normal high in the post-recession.
And you keep referring to 1 point. What does exactly 1 point mean?
So the way that it works, you take these 5 questions, and there's a formula for essentially subtracting the negative responses from the positive responses, and then you take the difference, and then there's a multiplier to benchmark it to 1966. So in theory, 1966 would have been 100, and so at 79, we're 21 points off of that. So the lowest it can actually go is 2. The highest it can go is 150.
How do these confidence rates then continue to rise?
One of the things that we do is we look month to month to see how it's changed, and then we try and figure out what's been going on in the month that would affect it. So people are a little more pessimistic about their personal finances this month than they were last month. They're also more pessimistic about buying conditions, but they're more optimistic about the future of the economy, and particularly the short-term increase, and that's actually at a post-recession high. So people are feeling somewhat optimistic about what's going to happen over the next year, and that's somewhat of a puzzling result given sort of the looming fiscal cliff that we're facing in January.
How closely related are these confidence surveys to the election? Like, do you think that it is higher this year because it is an election year?
So it can actually go higher or lower because of an election. So it's not actually designed to pick up an election, but certainly the election has something to do with how people feel about the economy and the future. So I think people are sort of projecting who's going to win and how that's going to actually affect the economy. And that's a strength of the Consumer Confidence Index because it picks those things up. It's also a weakness because you may really not want to have the elections have that big of an effect on what we're trying to track.
And is consumer confidence related to the unemployment rate by any chance?
Well, it certainly affects it. So if, for example, if I were unemployed and you're asking me about my personal financial situation, if I lost my job this year, then it's going to be worse than it was last year, and that's going to factor in. So when people are pessimistic about the job situation, that's going to factor into their perceptions of their personal finances and what they think about U.S. economic conditions.
And this whole survey is called the Post-Recession High. When exactly would you say the recession ended?
So it's not really up to me, but the recession actually did end in June of 2009. And according to NBER, this past recession began in December of 2007, and it ended in June of 2009. For a lot of us and for a lot of people, they're still experiencing the negative aspects of that recession. For example, housing has taken a long time to turn around. But there are other aspects of the economy that have improved. For example, businesses are making profits. A lot of businesses have made record profits since the recession ended in 2009. I think that once the election is over on November 7th, people will start paying attention to the fiscal cliff. Neither candidate is really discussing that very much. I think the president mentioned in the third debate that sequester would not happen, but that's really been the only mention of it. You can expect on November 7th, and as November sort of rolls on, you're going to start hearing a lot about the fiscal cliff and about how Congress and whoever's in the White House is going to end up dealing with that.
For Florida's 89.1 WUFT-FM, I'm Leah Harding.